Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Ward, and I am an instructor here at Ashford University. Today, we're going to discuss addressing multiple intelligences in distance education, what writing instructors need to know. And I'm hoping that the presentation is beneficial to you because what we found in research is that a lot of times our students' writing is a reflection of how they learn. And if we're able to understand the different ways they learn and find a way to address that learning style, hopefully our students will be more successful in their writing. Okay, one of the things I wanted to do today is model some of the suggestions that I have for you. And what I've done is I've chosen two of the intelligences actually to model. And the first is adding music to the presentation because musical is one of the intelligences, and then naturalist is the other. So I've come outside my home, and I'm hoping that you will hear the bird chirping, or you will hear the dog barking. You will hear, people talking, or whatever the case may be, because I did decide to come outside in nature and just do this so that I could address that learning style as well. Now we'll move to the next slide where we just define multiple intelligences. And first we will just define intelligence, and that's the capacity to learn, reason, and understand. And then multiple intelligence is just a definition I tweaked here for our purposes. Capacity to learn, reason, and understand in several different ways. And we're going to look at those different ways today. All right, there are 8 learning styles that have been acknowledged, and then there's a 9th that has been proposed, and we're going to go over those. The first is linguistic, then there's logical mathematical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, musical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalist, and then the possible 9th is existential. Okay? Now let's look at the linguistic learner. Then linguistic learner is sensitive to sound, meaning, and use of words. This learner likes to tell jokes, stories, enjoys reading, has a good vocabulary for his or her age, enjoys listening to the spoken word, and has a good memory for names and places. If this person is given a writing assignment that they would just be able to, write without any type of direction, they would probably prefer the narrative because they like to tell stories. In their research writing, more than likely they would include an anecdote. The only thing we have to be careful with this type of writer is that they don't include too many, because sometimes the story will go on and on and on, and then they will not have as much research as they need. But they prefer the narrative, and so they just will lean more toward that one. If they were going to do a pre-write, what you will probably notice with them is that they like to just write out everything in paragraph format and then go back and edit the paragraphs. Okay? The next type of learner is the logical mathematical. This learner has the ability to discern logical or numerical patterns, questions how things work, computes arithmetic problems quickly in his or her head, enjoys computing applications, and enjoys cause and effect. If there is a paper to be written, they would prefer the cause and effect because they like to ask questions and then share solutions. If you're going to look at a pre-write for them, that is probably what you would see. They will probably have a list of questions, and then they will look for the solutions for those questions, or the answers to those questions. And that's a good free one, right? Because they're able to organize their ideas. And one good thing about technology today, there are interactive outlines that they can use, and an outline will work for them because they get to see everything in order. All right, and then they can also just do the list here. They can just list the things that they want to address because order is important to them. Okay, the next type of learner is the spatial learner. This learner has the capacity to perceive the visual world accurately using one's initial perception. They like to read charts, maps, and diagrams. They enjoy art activities. They enjoy doing puzzles, and they daydream. They like to daydream. This type of writer would do a descriptive, more of a descriptive type writing because they want you to see in which they want you to see what they see. And so if they're really good with doing that with words, they prefer to do it that way. If you're going to look at a pre-writing activity for them, it will more than likely be the visual bubble maps or the webs that we taught our kids to do back when if any of us taught in the lower grades. And there are interactive mapping techniques now, and so they can use those. The good thing is the graphic organizers that I post here are all interactive, and there's a link that I share at the end where you can encourage your students to use those graphic organizers. Okay, the next one is the bodily kinesthetic learner. This learner has the ability to handle objects skillfully and control one's body movements. Excel in sports, becomes fidgety if seated for a long period of time, enjoys taking things apart and putting them back together, enjoys running and jumping, is dramatic with self-expression, and they clearly mimic gestures of others. This student is a good one to have in a traditional setting as well when you teach literary classes and you want reenactments done, because they do really well with reenactments. They do really well with mimicking you. So they're quite fun to have in a traditional class. And since we're in a non-traditional setting, how do we address their learning style in our classes? Well, one thing you can do, and this is one thing you can understand about their writing, they will more than likely like the expository writing where they're explaining a process, where they're explaining something, because they like the doing aspect. If it's a pre-writing activity, they may write everything out in paragraphs and then go back to revise those paragraphs. They may make a list and they may do the outline, because when the outline is there, especially with the interactive one, they can move things around. And the more they move things around, they become a little more organized because they actually like to put into practice. If they have the opportunity to explain a process to you, they would do pretty well with that because they understand and like movement. Okay, the next one is musical, and this one is maybe a little more challenging for those of us who learned in a traditional way, or we're older generation. It may be hard for us to conceive some of these things that I'm going to say for this particular learner. This particular learner has the ability to appreciate and produce pitch, rhythm, and quality of music. They remember songs and melodies, play musical instruments, unconsciously hums to him or herself, taps on desk while working, and speaks and moves in rhythmic manners. For them, if you're going to do any type of assignment for them, and this one may be just a little more challenging in our classes because most of our assignments are already posted. If you teach a class though where you can make adjustments to the assignments or suggestions of how they can present the assignments, then you may want to include a musical element in the presentation, because this will be most appreciated by this type of learner. If you don't have that ability to do that, or if you're you have to go with what's there, which is in our case most of the times that's what we have to do. The one way you can address their learning style is suggest that they listen to music while they write. Suggest that they while they formulate their ideas, think of some type of musical a song or something that relates to their writing, because two things will happen. They will be very appreciative of the fact that you acknowledge the way they learn, and secondly, you will help them to realize that listening to music while they write is okay. And if it's beneficial to them, then they should do it. One other thing you can do too, if you want to provide some assistance, is you could possibly post a link from YouTube of all this calming music, and they have tracks that go on for hours. I would suggest you give them 12 hours worth of music, but you can find one that they can just listen to while they write, while they pre-write, and you can just suggest it, have it there in the announcements, and see how appreciative some of them are with you posting that there for them to use. If they were going to do some type of pre-write, I don't know, any of them may work for them because if they're just, doing what they're doing and being able to listen to music, then their thoughts will flow. So they may be more of a free writer because once the thoughts start flowing, they just want to list everything. So they may do a list or they may do a free write because they're just trying to get everything down as they hear it in their heads. Okay. The next is the interpersonal person, and that person responds appropriately to the moods and motivations and desires of others, enjoys socializing with peers, appears to be a natural leader, is street smart, belongs to clubs and committees, and seek out other people for their company. This particular learner would enjoy group work. Now, I don't know if any of our classes offer opportunities for group work, but if it does, this particular learner will like group work because they will like organizing the group. They will like talking to their peers. They will like sharing their ideas. If you do not have a class where group work is permitted, then one thing I suggest you do for this learner is encourage the interpersonal learners in your class to maybe form a group chat where they just volley their ideas verbally back and forth, and discuss the topics that they plan to that they plan to write about, and you will notice that they will enjoy it. They will enjoy that opportunity. I think we may be able to create chats in our class if we cannot do it directly in the forum. Then there are all these different chat forums that we can direct them to so that they're able to do what they need to do in their groups. Okay. Or and then they will still produce an individual paper, but just being able to discuss those ideas with each other, I think, will be a great help for them. And for them, for a pre-write, discussing those ideas and maybe recording those ideas may work for them. And then they can just go back and listen to the recording. And of course, they can record on their phones. So it's not like they have to go and buy or download an app in most cases. They can just use their phones. All right, intrapersonal. Intrapersonal person is just the opposite. This person has the ability to discriminate among one's emotions. Independent and strong-willed, realistic sense of own strengths and weaknesses, can play and study alone, and accurately express one's feelings. So for this person, they prefer to just do it all by themselves. And that's fine because that's how they learn. They learn better when they work by themselves. And most of our classes allow for students to just work by themselves. But this particular learner, for the pre-write, any of them may work for them. They may do the graphic organizer, they may do the list, they may do the outline. The whole thing is working alone, okay, and being able to express themselves. Now, when you're looking at the type of writing they like to produce, you have to work with them and let them know you have to look at the point of view of someone else, because if they're not careful, they will only consider their points of view. And we can't allow them to do that in research. So you have to let them know there's a whole world full of other people, and you need to address their points of view. You need to consider their points of view. You need to study their points of view. So with this particular learner, you just have to be careful and watchful that they don't use the I, me, we. Okay? The naturalist, and this is the one we were speaking about earlier. This person has the ability to recognize plants and animals, enjoys the outdoors, sensitive to the environment, and interacts with plants and animals. Now with this one, if you're going to look at the type of writing that this particular student may produce, we often have topics that they can choose from, and I think there are some that deal with the environment, which more than likely those are the ones they would choose because they have a passion for the environment and trying to keep it and preserve it. If they are allowed to choose their own topics, for this particular writer, I would just encourage them to choose something that is more interesting to them concerning nature and the environment, because you want them to write about something they're passionate about. For their pre-write, I would encourage them to go outside and find a place in nature, some calming, quiet place where they can write and think, because they would enjoy that. For some of us, it may not be as easy, but they would enjoy it. And this is just like the musical learner. When you suggest this to them, they will be appreciative of the fact that you acknowledge their learning style and that you're trying to suggest some ways that they can actually improve their writing by relying on the way they learn. Now, as with the musical intelligence, you can also find links of just natural sounds, these nature recordings, and post it. Post a link to that. And then tell them, I posted a link for those of you who are natural learners. And then this way you can, listen to those sounds as you do your work. And it will, help you to relax and formulate your ideas. Okay, and then there's the proposed ninth one, existential. And this person is the person who enjoys their neighbors, and they're committed to us as a community. Okay, and they're quite interested in social justice and social issues. With this particular learner, volleying the ideas verbally back and forth may also work for them, because they want to make sure that every person is considered. They want to make sure that people are treated fairly. And so if they are allowed to choose their own topics, more than likely they will choose a social issue. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, a lot of our topics, some of them at least, deal with social issues. If they do not, maybe you can choose an issue and show them how they can address the social aspect of that issue, because most of these issues today have a social aspect. And just encouraging them to pursue that since they are passionate about it. For a pre-write, any of them may work for them as well. Any of them may work for them as well. The outline may work a little better than the others, because they're able to just see the order in what they're thinking in the outline. All right, now that we've gone over the learning styles, I just wanted to show you how these styles have actually been used to develop our courses. And that's on the next slide. Incorporating styles and distance learning design. And in the researchers here did an article on how we have incorporated these learning styles and used the multiple intelligences to develop online courses. I didn't post everything from the article, but there it is, and you can go and look at it. One thing I found interesting that I did not post is they actually had a graph that showed where each one of these learning styles, which one was represented for which expertise, and I found that very fascinating, because a lot of our students will eventually go into these fields, and so it's really good when they can see where they fit with their learning style in the corporate world. And I was glad to see where I fit, and realize, hey, my learning style is needed. Okay, and so you can look at all the different ones here, and again, you can go to the source and see the graphic where they break each one of the multiple intelligences down and show you which one falls where. And some of them crisscross, okay, which I find fascinating too, because most of us have more than one learning style. You will find out that you have more than one. You may lean toward one more than the other, but you have more than one. And the great thing about this is none of these work independently. They all work together to make something happen. And that's how we have to present this to our students. No one is standing alone. We all work together to make things happen. Now the next slide here, I just incorporated intelligences in lesson design, things that we can do to kind of help our students with their learning. They're interactive graphic organizers. These are the things we spoke about earlier. You can also do a flip book for those students who like to read. They like the written word. And then what's good about the flip book, the link that I posted, you can also embed videos so that the visual learner is addressed. You can embed music so that the musical learner is addressed. You can do all types of things with the flipbook. And then you can narrate the PowerPoint, which is what I did here. There's also a program called Recall Plus. It is not actually a program, it's an app that the students can download to their tablets, and it's a study tool. And there are other virtual study tools that will help them organize their thoughts. And you can also do virtual lectures using Screenomatic. Jing doesn't allow as much time, but Screenomatic is real good for those. And then the reference here, these particular authors just spoke about how virtual lectures help our students in their distance learning. So although we have the guidances for the week, just a quick little lecture from you where you've recorded yourself may help those students who just need just that little bit extra to help them with their work for the week. Now in the writing classes, I include several lectures where I just speak to them about their writing. If I notice that there's a problem with subject-verb agreement, spelling, whatever the case may be, you can do that because, we can post things. And so that will help our students. Okay, and now here are the links that I spoke about earlier. The first one is the interactive graphic organizer, and if you go to that one, there are so many that the students can choose from, and I really appreciate that variety. Then the second one is a link for the interactive outline, and then what I like about it is the manipulation of it, and then once they're done, the student can actually print the outline. And then the next one, I think this link will take you directly to a flip book I did for another presentation I had where I explained how to narrate a PowerPoint, how to use Boki, how to use, what's the other one we use? Some Prezi, how to do the flip book, how to embed the videos in the flip book. So I think you will enjoy that one. How to use Movie Maker to make these movies, because you can also post a movie from Movie Maker if you save it as an MP3 or MP4, and all of those instructions are there. Then we have the Recall Plus that I was telling you about. This is the app that the students can download. Then the link for Screenomatic, that's pretty self-explanatory. They're not hard to do at all. Those using that program is not hard to do at all. And then I end with an email address. So if you have any questions or comments about the presentation, please feel free to contact me. If there's anything I can do to help you, I would be more than happy to. Because I really want us to realize that our students, no one is the same. And so we have to address them differently, although they're all in the same class. I hope the presentation has been helpful. I hope you're encouraged to go out and learn something about your students. I'm going to also include documents, and one of them will be the survey that you can give your students so they can determine their learning style. And then all of these links will be there as well. And then a couple of other things I may find that might be helpful to you. Okay, again, if you have any questions or comments, please email me at the address listed here. And now I just want us to go change the digital world, because that's what we're doing here. All right, I hope this has been helpful.